launch a quick poll to get us interacting and engaged. The question is, how are you feeling about DEI in 2024? Are you excited and focused on the opportunities? Are you neutral? Not much has changed for me. Or are you pessimistic? It's not looking good. So where are you?
Okay, we've got a few people joining and taking the poll as they join, which is very exciting.
Great. Thanks everyone for taking the poll. It seems that most people right now, that number one, excited and focused on the opportunities. And that's really great to hear because,
that's great.
despite the negativity, it is an opportunity. That's what we think. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. I'll just share. I'll just share the results with everyone. Do you see them?
I see
Great.
them.
So most people feel, all right, we're excited and we're focused on these opportunities. I love it. I love it. All
And I
right.
like the fact that it's 23% neutral. That's interesting. Good.
Yeah. So I want to welcome everyone to today's live event, the first event of 2024. And I'm excited that we're kicking it off with the experts in the experts at Diversity Works, our managing partners, Denise Rosemont and Holly Wittenberg. Holly is our resident numbers and data nerd, and Denise is our expert trainer. And so we have a great presentation prepared for you today. Holly, will you share the presentation, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
You able to see it?
We are. If you don't mind advancing to the second slide.
I do not mind.
Thank you. We're just positive and cheery here at Diversity Works. So we are gathered to explore, analyze, and strategize around DEI plus initiatives in a year that is marked by unique complexities that Holly will get into. And our agenda today is threefold. First, we're going to focus on DEI plus in the culture crosshairs. We'll begin by delving into the current year's unique challenges amidst a presidential election and economic turbulence. DEI plus initiatives face intensified scrutiny in both political and media spheres. We've seen it in the news. We've seen it both popping up that no, keep going, or DEI is challenged right now. And I think understanding and navigating this complex terrain is crucial for C-suite decision-making around DEI policies. We'll then move over to DEI plus positive for business, that it is positive and it remains positive, and we all know that. We want to emphasize the importance of reassessing and revitalizing communication strategies about the value of DEI plus. And our goal is to demonstrate how DEI plus aligns with and enhances business performance, offering practical ideas to embed these initiatives more deeply within our organizations. And then finally, we'll end with anchoring our DEI plus in resilient strategies. And we'll showcase the tangible benefits and successes of DEI initiatives. And we'll discuss strengthening the infrastructure and reporting mechanisms, ensuring that these programs are resilient and integral to our organizational DNA, capable of thriving amidst these challenges. And we are hoping that there'll be time at the end for Q&A, but if you do have a question along the way, please feel free to throw it in the chat. We will be watching the chat closely. And we also hope that when we get to the end that we'll all be able to share our ideas and our thinking and our feelings as we embark on 2024 and DEI work this year. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Holly, who is going to kick it off with DEI and the culture war crosshairs. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel, and welcome everybody. As we're all aware, 2024 isn't just another year, it's also a presidential election year. Being based in DC, we're often very focused on this. Elections invariably heighten public discourse and bring underlying societal issues to the forefront. And this year is particularly significant due to the contentious political climate and polarizing views on topics like DEI. but let's take heart and stay focused. In this charged atmosphere, we're witnessing almost a daily discussion about the merits of DEI. There is a well-coordinated and well-funded anti-DEI movement influencing both public opinion and policy in response to the attention and the investment that organizations like yours have made over the last few years. But don't let this loud majority dishearten you. That is, in fact, their goal. Let's talk a little bit more about the presidential election. It's likely to be a contest between Biden and Trump, two individuals who have put DEI at the center of their messaging. On the one hand, you have Biden, who passed the executive order requiring federal agencies to focus on DEI and accessibility. And on the other hand, you have Trump, whose team members are actually launching lawsuits, filing EEOC complaints, and then using those activities in the media to change the narrative. All in all, to say, don't be surprised that this issue will be discussed regularly throughout this election year. Compounding this, the media also plays a pivotal role in shaping narratives around DEI. The debate isn't confined to the political arena, it's being played out in the public sphere through news outlets, social media, and the popular culture. This widespread debate often polarizes views, making it difficult to have constructive conversations about the true value of DEI. In fact, the anti-DEI movement, like I said, are using the lawsuits to garner media attention and sway public opinion. So this is all part of a strategy. Even in the first days of 2024, we all witnessed the Twitter debate or the X debate between Mark Cuban and Elon Musk about the value of DEI, which started with Elon Musk saying DEI is racist, and Mark Cuban rather impressively and very quickly responding, articulating the value of DEI. He is clearly a committed believer in DEI and is armed with his own talking points. But where the rubber hits the road with some of these anti-DEI movements are cases like the Perkins Coie law firm that did change its diversity fellowship amid a legal fight. So they didn't actually, the suit was dropped when they changed their fellowship program. Initially, it was designated for historically underserved populations, and they had to change the eligibility to everybody. And so the pressure to change one legal fellowship is not the goal of the organizations doing it. It's to have these headlines like this one right here to change the conversation. So take heart. And stay focused on what's important and the work that you're doing. So I do want to talk a little bit more about Perkins Coie. The suit was dropped when it revised its diversity fellowship program, and this change was prompted by the lawsuit from the American Alliance for Equal Rights, which is a group led by Edward Blum. This lawsuit followed in the wake of the Supreme Court decision dismantling affirmative action in colleges. And that campaign was also led by Mr. Blum, and he was also instrumental in the ouster of Harvard President Gray. So this is a small group of actors. They're a minority, but they're well-funded, well-coordinated, and savvy users of the media. As I said, the law firm's original fellowship targeted applicants from, quote, historically underrepresented groups, but they revised the program, expanding eligibility to all applicants. The updated criteria were designed to continue promoting diversity, aligning the firm's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the legal profession, and evolving the legal landscape. So they changed the criteria, but they didn't really change the objective, and they didn't dismantle the fellowship. So I think all of those are important takeaways from that as well. Those groups are really focused on protected classes like race and gender. So when they see that a program or an effort is specifically excluding people, that's where they're focused. And so, when you think about your programming, that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. So the other thing that we want to talk about is sort of what are the big externalities and the concerns in 2024. And these issues come from a survey done by the conference board about what CEOs are worried about. And then we pulled some headlines to show that. The year is marked by geopolitical instability, economic and labor market fluctuations, and the rapid advancements of new technologies, notably artificial intelligence. Geopolitical instability is a prominent concern. We observe ongoing conflicts in regions like Ukraine and Gaza, and even this morning, we saw a conflict between Pakistan and Iran, and then ongoing things like trade disputes with China. Now, this instability can have real operational impacts on our organizations, right? It could limit market access. It might affect your supply chains. But sometimes it's just as simple as you end up having politically charged conversations in your own organizations that you need to manage. We saw that a lot with our clients following the conflict in Gaza, and that your company's productivity was directly impacted by the fact that your employees were upset about the situation. This in the workplace, we'll delve in how we helped some of our clients with these intricate decisions. The silver lining, though, is that DEI is actually a great way to navigate these complexities, right? We know that diverse teams are more resilient, they're more productive and more innovative. And so it's in these charged and complex times that high-performing teams really succeed. The other external factor I want to touch on in the economic landscape is the issue of predictions of ongoing inflation and a potential recession, and the complexities of the current labor market. On the economic side, some experts project inflation rates between 2.1% and 3.1%. There are wide opinions on whether or not we're going to have a recession. But again, looking at the survey and what the C-suite is worried about, those are two of their top concerns. The third concern is really about the labor market in general, whether it's managing in a post-COVID environment and still trying to figure out what hybrid work looks like and how you manage teams effectively in a hybrid environment, whether it's the success that organized labor had in 2024 and what that might mean going forward. In 2023, and what that might mean going forward in 2024, and really understanding also the relationship between inflation on your employees' ability to meet their own financial needs, and how that might result in collective bargaining for higher wages, or even just demands for higher wages because their own costs have gone up. The last thing I want to talk about is the emergence of advanced technologies. It is reshaping the business world. And while AI offers immense potential for innovation and efficiency, which is very exciting, it also brings challenges in terms of ethics and job displacement and the need for new skills. And we know that a lot of entry-level positions, especially in retail and hospitality, are going to be negatively impacted with some of these technologies, but you're also going to need a workforce that's able to operate these new technologies. So there are also opportunities for reskilling and upgrading your workforce to meet these new digital transformation demands. So we want to revisit in the next section just, the business case for DEI and why we remain optimistic, and again, how we think that aligning your efforts directly to what is keeping your senior team up at night is going to ensure that 2024 goes as smoothly as possible. So the same survey cited these 5 areas of concern: talent acquisition and management, digital transformation, product and service innovation, customer experience, and cost management. We also see almost daily reports that Americans continue to support DEI efforts in their organizations, and many want their companies to take public positions on it. There was just an article out yesterday at CNBC. And we know that research shows that companies with diverse teams are more resilient and innovative, which allows organizations to absorb these sorts of changes. The importance of a diverse team, though, isn't necessarily its heterogeneity per se. It's the fact that it counters the insidiousness of groupthink. And groupthink, as you all know, is when decisions are made to achieve harmony rather than necessarily to use data, right? And so when you have a homogeneous team, you're more likely to have the same decision-making framework, the same education, the same background, and that can lead to poor decision-making. So diverse teams are really important to break groupthink and to find that resiliency and that innovation that's so valuable during these times. In terms of customer experience, I mean, to me, it's very simple. Happy employees, happy customers, right? And the opposite is true for any of us that have served in account management roles or customer service roles. We know that when we feel engaged and motivated, that is conveyed directly to the people that we're serving. So our recommendation is that here at the top of the year that you consolidate your support, that you go back out to your greater DEI network, which hopefully you're sitting at the hub of, and meet with your counterparts and build or reinforce this virtual DEI network. Each of these groups can be a resource to your efforts and ensure your organization's ongoing commitment. And this year in particular, we suggest listening sessions, co-creating talking points, and revisiting your communications plan. And I would emphasize really, especially the example I gave of the law firm, that you sit down with legal and HR and review what some of the flashpoints might be in any of your programming or anything that might restrict access to one group over another. And then this is, really just to summarize this section: revisit or establish your narrative, update your organization, and really get back to ground on your data and your reporting, and do it all year. So that's why it's a circle, right? It doesn't stop. This is going to be an important year to demonstrate results, to have clear talking points, and to give talking points to everybody in your network so that they can be the Mark Cuban of DEI at your organization when someone stops them in the elevator and asks them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Denise, and she's going to really bring this to ground for you guys and go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. And thanks everyone for joining us. So we talk about how do we anchor DI and be resilient in the strategies. What we're saying to our clients and our partners is to integrate DEI in your organizational framework, especially in light of the Supreme Court ruling and the tension surrounding these issues. So while these developments might create apprehension, it's crucial to remain steadfast and embed diversity, equity, and inclusion into your strategic planning and operational processes. We heard how we talk about Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, and Stephen Miller was very instrumental in shaping the racist, draconian immigration policies for President Trump. We want to make sure we're anchoring correctly, and we want to provide you with our next piece is our mnemonic device known as GRIT. So I want everybody to tell me, what does grit mean to them? Put that in the chat, and then we'll kind of go over it and what we're thinking that what grit means. What does grit mean to you? We're telling everyone.
I'm going to pick on Levon. Levon, tell me, what does demonstrating grit mean to you?
Yes.
I think grit manifests as constancy of purpose for me. So if I believe in something deeply, if it is connected to my core values, that constancy of purpose doesn't flail, or the grit helps me achieve it, because small bumps or big bumps along the way aren't going to deter me from sort of that guiding North Star.
Thank you, Levon. That's great. We want to make sure that we're consistent and we're going to endure the interest in the goals that we're about to set. We want to make sure that we're steadfast in our direction and commitment over time. Grit is about the ability to stick and persist in efforts toward the long-term goal, even in the face of adversity, challenges, and setbacks or failure. It's about having determination and endurance. That is why we think about grit, and we wanted to give you this so that you can take it. I'm going to stay with the grit. So grit, we think about goal-driven, being aware of the risk when you're designing your sessions and your training. And we're saying learn, focus, and succeed. So goal-driven, these include setting clear objectives, employing measurable strategies, and adopting evolving social and business landscape. So you want to make sure you have your quantifiable DEI objectives. That could be workforce diversity, that could be leadership, pay equity, and cultural metrics. That's when you're focusing on the goal. All right. So our next piece, we could talk about how to track progress, right? We want to make sure that what's the risk involved. That's the next slide, Holly. The risk to minimize lawsuits. And Holly mentioned that we have to focus on our stakeholders, partnering with HR. We want to make sure that we're implementing the right programs. We should be cautious and avoid certain practices like quota-based hiring or promotions, avoid rigid quotas, and specifically talk about race and gender and other protected classes. Make sure that it's not discriminatory and it involves everyone. And be careful of violations of privacy. Make sure that personal data is collected and it's relevant and with consent. There isn't a one-size-fits-all for all the DI initiatives, and it should be specific and tailored to the needs of the organization. That's how we look at it. We want to make sure we're also anchoring. We're looking at all the resilient strategies and things to avoid. Next one, Holly. All right, so when I said about being inclusive in design, I want to make sure that we are being intentional with our team building, collaboration, and we're valuing equity and really focusing on teamwork, and that's the norm. The approach should not only enhance the organization's ability to challenge and handle challenges, but create a positive, inclusive, and a dynamic work environment where everyone feels like they're valued, that different perspectives are valued, and the organization is really sought after. Ensure fair practices, resources, and support for all team members. That's about inclusion. So it's going to be the norm of the day, but it will be really including everyone in the process. It's not in making sure how we do that. Our next slide here talks about I think it's Amit Ray's teaching when he talks about AI and leadership, emphasizing the importance of a balanced and mindful and ethical, conscious approach. Leaders need to understand they have to leverage the technical aspects of AI. It's really about, really reinforcing human qualities and looking at defining what's effective, being effective, and also being compassionate. As AI becomes more cognitive tasks, we need to make sure that we have the emotional intelligence to understand that our leaders must focus on empathy, emotional connection, which is hard for some, and that's different. But it's really looking at that how AI can really replicate itself, how we can use it to our advantage, and making sure we're highlighting the human values about AI. That's how I see that Amit Ray is talking about it. Our next slide, when we talk about that, is really, I think about, I look at Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm a big proponent of that. And it talks about being proactive and the difference between reactive and proactive people, that being proactive is really taking control, but not letting outside influences really take control of you. Look at it's an evolution. We're telling you now to manage change because of letting change just happen. So this is going to reflect the global economy. We look at the historical DI focus on compliance and representation, which really involve a holistic understanding of DI. And so we look at the circle of concern. This is where if you focus your time and energy you have a wide range of concern, and that could be your health, external pressures, DEI items, woke programs that you're hearing about, the national debt, the war in Gaza. As we look at those things within our circle of concern, it becomes apparent that some things we have no control and others that we might. By determining which of the two circles is the focus of your time and energy, you can discover the degree that you are being proactive. So when we say that proactive people focus on their efforts in the circle of influence, you look at the circle of influence here, these are things that you can do something about, that your energy is positive. You're going to enlarge that circle and increase it to be more effective. And that's why so if you look at the circle of influence, if you are taking control, you're monitoring, you're looking at your strategic operational values, you're looking at what's the principle behind what it is you're doing and all your strategies, and focusing on your business case, which is important. The data is there. Holly talked about, you have the data, and we are also in a position to help you with the data. So when problems occur, we need to make sure that you are really researching it. You know what's right. You're getting with all your stakeholders. You're including everyone in the organization and not just a few. That will keep you in a balanced position and out of harm's way, because it's going to be an opportunity this year to really monitor and take a look at organizations, and we need to be ready and prepared. As we go on to the last slide, which is when we look at our circles here, you could see the circle. This first circle is a circle of concern, has economic downturn. I talked about that earlier, but labor shortage, a lot of things that maybe you don't have a control of, but they're of concern. But if you focus on what's important, where you can make impact, look at what you can do, and look at where you are, advocacy, getting involved in ERGs if you have them in your organization, get together with your director of change, of culture and change, give your suggestions, and monitor what's happening externally, then we all could be in a position to really improve the situation where we're not being reactive, we're being proactive. I've gone through this process before historically, and I have to say that I probably did not stay focus when it came to listening to everything that was happening. So if the administration changes, then you have an opportunity to listen to what's being said. And I worked as an internal consultant, and that was great. I had the ability to influence the organization, but as an external consultant, it became very difficult because there's other things that are being pulled by these organizations. And when I look back, we're back here to 20 years ago. And if we had stayed focused, we had really continued to walk, maybe we would be a little bit farther ahead. But just be mindful that this might happen again and again. And we just have to stay out there. There's a few of us that need to stay and stick to it, and look at your strategic goals, look at your business case. And that's all I reinforce. Look at your training, making sure that your training is relevant to your organizational needs, and not just doing training just for the doing training, because that's going to be very important in this 2024. I think we had a last poll. Do we want to do that now?
If I can just add, I think this exercise of taking these broad concepts and concerns and translating them into how they might actually manifest in your organization is another important takeaway on this slide. So economic.
So we've launched a poll.
Yep.
Sorry, Holly.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say.
Sorry.
So just think about how this might manifest in your organization. If your CEO is worried about a recession in your industry, product and service innovation is the tactic. And then thinking about how your DEI programs can support that is really where you're going to have the greatest opportunity to impact change. So.
Well, what we wanted to do is to see where you want to focus in your organization. And I'm seeing that culture building is taking the top spot.
Mm-hmm.
Culture building, training and development, that's awesome.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Can someone tell me a little bit more about that? How do they see that coming into focus?
You want to end the poll, Rachel?
Yeah. Would anyone like to tell us
sharing results?
The results? 50% for culture, 29% training and development. And what I'd like to ask the group is, How do you see the difference between your culture building and your training and development? Where's the correlation? Or is there one?
I think Angela's raised her hand. Angela, feel free to come off mute and ask your question.
Go ahead.
Yes, again, it's Angela from Oregon, and I work for one of the largest utilities. We have three, but anyhow, what I'd like to tell you is that I, for instance, had a meeting with the president. I am leading one of the ERGs of our company, and I've been focusing a lot of our efforts into not think about ERGs as isolated clusters of people having a different interest, but more cohesively. And I have gained a lot of territory in theory because I now meeting, I did an ERG retreat and all this other stuff. And one of the things that I noticed is that there's still a lot of friction between the different groups of the organization. And one topic that the CEO mentioned, the president, excuse me, was belonging being a factor that they are not sure where is that going. How do we make people feel that they belong, even if they see other people with different interests? So I see 2024 in my particular space addressing that factor. And also I put a strategy as the answer for me, because we need to work more on what you're doing, Holly, which is the quantification of how does this help the business case? And that has to be a lot better than what it has been done so far. It has to be more clear. It has to be more business language and quantitative.
Right. Thank you for that, Angela. Yes. And again, understanding the business case and having the data to support it is what we recommend when we're doing a learning and development. That is key. If you don't have that, you're going to have the dismantling of the organization. People have to understand why they're doing, what's in it for them, what's in it for the organization, and letting them know that, understand that there's a win-win situation.
And
Thank you.
Monica, you've got your hand raised. Feel free to come off mute also and ask your question.
Yes, so I understand culture is going to be the driver of our work moving forward. And I am an external consultant now and speaker on diversity, equity, and inclusion after 3.5 decades of leading this work within Fortune 500 companies. As my former employers have now become some of my clients, Fortune 500 companies are the ones that are going to be under attack for their work, right? It's not by chance that these things came, from a judiciary academic perspective. It went against Harvard, against big companies that have a big name. That has a reason. Same with companies who are at the forefront of their industries. That's where the attacks are going to come from. So these organizations that are more advanced in their journey have figured out that this is, like another, DEI is just another area that they have to rethink. Because after COVID, the whole thing about engaging employees, their culture, are we a culture of collaborating in person or remote or hybrid? The prevalence of, like new tendencies and new trends in terms of the Generation Z coming into the workplace. They are not thinking the same way about many things. Work ethics, flexibility, even diversity within, right? They claim their space. So this has become part of the mix of things that the organizations need to figure out to redefine their culture. So I think it's advantageous for us to be integrated without losing our ground, which is always hard to our hearts in terms of, not calling things for what they are, but organizations sometimes are doing the work in disguise. They're doing diversity work, but not using the D. They're using the I. And that is the reality of how we can manage the turmoil, right? The pendulum. I think that it might be difficult for some of my colleagues who really want to, go at the forefront of the letters that we stand so much for, but there are different ways of doing things right now. right? It's a strategy. We have to be strategic on how do we drive that. And I think the opportunity to drive it through culture without losing its integrity, it's an opportunity.
And thank you for saying that, Monica, because when you look at, so what do we do? Do we do this? Is it status quo or social change? We think about that when it comes to the evolution of training, learning, and development. And what you're talking about is the intercultural perspective when you're doing a training or development, and they're going to overlap these methodologies because
Right.
you trying to understand culture, looking at the roots of behavior, which should be part of every session to kind of help people looking at the internal process and then understanding how that impacts the external. So thank you for saying that. It is that's so important because you have training that just focuses on one piece. And that's where we put these webinars out so people can understand there's different ways. You have the legal compliance perspective, which focuses on either affirmative action, equal opportunity, that's more the human resources. The intercultural is a big piece, what we call the IC, or we're managing diversity. Over the years, I've seen that, and that implies workforce, and it brings in the piece about competitive edge, that if you don't manage it correctly, you're not going to have the competitive edge. So it behooves all of us to make sure that we have the knowledge base to communicate those the information to others. And it's not just a one word, but it's a combination, but staying true to what we're talking about. Like you said, focus on the business case, being strategic, understanding the operational perspective of the organization.
I do have a question though, before we go. I was curious on something that you're bringing forward in this conversation, which is that you're calling it DEI plus. And I had not heard that before. So I was looking it up and immediately saying, is that a new trend? Is this something that you just adapted just to be brief? So where is that coming from?
Yeah, we adapted it to certainly acknowledge that there are a lot of different versions, JEDI, DEIA, and so it's our way of being inclusive and broad. But it is a term that we came up with, but obviously we like it. We
I was
we're
just curious, exactly.
yeah, feel free to use it. We have no hold over it. We adopt whatever terminology our clients use when we're working with them. But that's our internal acronym, if you will. Rachel, I think you wanted to add something as well.
Thanks, Holly. Building on Monica's point about culture, I think it's really important to assess what the actual employees of your company want, and also to be armed with that data when speaking with directors of the C-suite. And so it's important to look at what research is out there and what data is out there. And a company that is based in Canada but has done a survey of 1,000 US employees found that 95% say they weigh a prospective employer's DEI efforts when choosing between job offers. So that has to do with talent acquisition, and that 3/4 of current employees maintain that they would not consider working for a company that fails to commit significant resources to prioritizing DEI initiatives. And that's a company called Benevity out of Canada. And so when you're thinking about culture building by assessing, well, what do my employees want? What do my employees believe? That's going to help to push forward and substantiate that we need to have DEI initiatives. And to your other point, Monica, that we have a whole nother generation, we have a multi-generational workforce in play right now. The younger generation, Generation Z, they are very socially minded. They think about social impact when they are choosing positions, when they're with their purchasing power, they understand it. And we, in the other generations, need to understand that. They're going to be one of the largest portions of our workforce soon. So we will have to adapt and change. And I think it's going to be great. I'm going to put the link to the report in the chat.
And I think I just want to follow up on that, back to the economic situation. If the organization you work for is having trouble filling positions, right? That's attraction and understanding what those candidates are looking for is really important. And that's where that dialogue with HR can be so important to understand, okay, are we putting our best foot forward? Are we communicating our values in our job positions on our Indeed pages, our LinkedIn pages, and working with them to solve that business problem is a really compelling, project to work on. We are at about quarter of, and we typically wrap up around now. But just a last quick call to any hands raised or any questions. Just take yourself off mute and join the conversation, or just say hi. All right, I'm just gonna shut
I'm just saying
down.
hi, you guys. This has been a great presentation. I appreciate you all so much and being so open. This is Sophie Taylor. I put the comment in that this has been validating, which I just want to share. Being in this space, you can feel very on an island or alone sometimes, and so it's really nice to just know that there are others out there that are facing similar challenges or going through similar experiences. So thank you.
Well, that
Thank-
is,
thank you.
Sophie, the perfect segue to say, please join our LinkedIn group, the DEI Leader Network. It was designed and it's intended to be a place where DEI practitioners feel supported. We encourage other consultants like Monica to talk about what work they do and showcase their services as well. We don't have sharp elbows, as I like to say, at Diversity Works. We work well in the sandbox. We live our values. So share your stories, ask your questions, and let's build that community together and support each other in what we think will be a very challenging year.
And let me just say that when we look at your circle, focus on your circle of influence to kind of make more connections and bring more in, and look at the advocacy groups, see what you can do and partner with your stakeholders. And as Albert Einstein said, the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level that we were in when we created them. So look for different perspectives, different paradigms, and have a great day. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Happy New Year, by the way. We probably should have started with that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Stacy, everybody, Angela.
Thank you, everybody.
Levon.
Stay in touch.
Vaughn, Philip, Megan,
Bye,
Cynthia.
Monica.
Bye
Awesome.
now.
Holly, I sent a question in the chat, and I hope we can discuss at some point when it's convenient for you.
I would love that. Wonderful. Thanks,
Okay.
Angela.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.